The Abbasids was an interesting empire in the Middle East. Now, this is Epic History's version of Islam's Mightiest Dynasty. This is going to last all the way up to the Mongol invasions, I think of like 1258 or something like that, was it Hugulu Khan or something like that? Nevertheless, let's get into it right away. I'm glad that you're with me. This is what we do here. We learn, so hit that subscribe button if you like that. Let's just jump right into it, shall we?
In the 8th century Middle East, a new dynasty seized control of one of the world's greatest empires, the Islamic Caliphate.
Ooh.
Though little remembered in the West today.
Right, like, honestly, you guys might have like a similar, like, I wouldn't say stance, but kind of like experience. Don't know too much about the caliphates. And I did learn that the caliph is a king. Caliphate is just kind of like kingdom. Kind of like Khan is like king. Khanate is like kingdom. So yeah.
The Abbasids reigned for 5 centuries. They oversaw an era of Islamic military dominance, city building, brilliant scholarship, and technological innovation. It has come to be remembered as Islam's golden age.
Yep.
This is the story of the Abbasid Caliphate.
I'm so excited. And by the way, part 1 of 2, we're going to also post the other one. So if you watch this one, watch the other one.
(632 AD). In the Arabian city of Medina, the Prophet Muhammad lies dead. His followers, professing the new religion of Islam, sweep across the Arabian Peninsula, uniting it under the rule of Abu Bakr, the first caliph, God's deputy on earth.
Okay.
Then they burst upon the world stage, taking on the 2 superpowers of the Middle East.
Right, and this just obviously this is the Eastern Roman Empire. This is not like the Western Roman Empire that fell in like 478 or something like that. I don't know too much about the Sassanids, so let me know about that down below. What you guys know about the Sassanid Empire?
The Eastern Roman and Sassanid empires. Both are vulnerable after decades of war, and the Muslims wage a stunning campaign, winning victory after victory.
Wow.
By 651, they have overrun 2/3 of the Eastern Roman Empire and almost all of the Sassanid Empire.
Jeez.
But in 656, the 3rd Caliph, Uthman, is assassinated, sparking the first Muslim civil war, or fitna.
Okay, so fitna means civil war. Got it.
Ali, cousin and son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad, has the support of the people. But he's opposed by the governor of Syria, Uthman's kinsman, Muawiyah. 5 years of bloodshed culminate in Ali's assassination at Kufa. Muawiyah emerges triumphant and establishes a new Umayyad Caliphate.
That's where Umayyad Caliphate comes from. Okay. Makes sense.
Further conquests helped to forge one of the largest empires in history. But it is riven by more civil war. One challenge comes from Hussein, son of Ali, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. He opposes the succession of Muawiyah's son, Yazid. But in 680, he and his followers are defeated and killed at the Battle of Karbala. Supporters of Ali and his descendants will later become the Shiites.
Okay.
They still commemorate Hussein's death each year on the day of Ashura.
Like it's like a modern holiday still?
The vast Umayyad Caliphate continues to expand, but it contains serious internal divisions. Much of what we know about the Umayyad Caliphate comes from later sources, often hostile. But it seems clear that the small Arab Muslim elite that dominated this great empire was increasingly unpopular with many of its subjects. including some of those later termed dhimmi.
Dhimmi.
These were non-Muslims, including Christians, Jews, and Zoroastrians, who were treated as an underclass and made to pay extra tax.
Another pause. What's Zoroastrian? I know that's like is that like a branch of a religion that I'm just ignorant of?
Even those who did convert to Islam, known as Mawali, were often treated as second-class subjects.
Okay.
Decades of discontent were about to boil over. The symbol of Umayyad authority was their white banner. But in 747, a new symbol rises to challenge their rule. The black banners of the Abbasids.
Okay, so this is where we're getting the Abbasids, okay. Revolution.
The Abbasids are an Arab family, descended from the Prophet Muhammad's uncle Al-Abbas, from whom they take their name.
Makes sense. Abbas.
They and their supporters believe this blood tie to the Prophet gives them legitimate claim to the title of Caliph. Far more so than the Umayyads, whom the Abbasids later portray as decadent and despised. The Abbasids promise a return to true Islam, to correct teachings and moral leadership, and send missionaries and agents out across the Caliphate to spread their message.
Okay.
In 747, with the Caliphate once more racked by revolt and civil war, the Abbasids will seize their chance. In eastern Khurasan, a general named Abu Muslim, probably a Persian convert, launches a revolt and takes the black banner of the Hashemites as his symbol.
That's an interesting last name. Was that a taken name? That's interesting.
The Hashemites, descendants of Hashim, are the extended family of the Prophet, with the Abbasids prominent amongst them. This frontier region, today comprising northeastern Iran and parts of Turkmenistan and Afghanistan, is particularly ripe for rebellion. Here, Arabs and non-Arab converts live side by side. They intermarry and fight alongside each other to defend the frontier. For many, the Umayyads are distant and unpopular overlords. What's more, opposition has been stoked for decades by Hashemite agents and missionaries who seek to topple the Umayyads and replace them with one of their own. They have sowed the seeds of revolution. So when Abu Muslim begins his revolt, he quickly attracts followers, Arabs, Persians, and Central Asians, many of whom are experienced warriors. And he proves a brilliant commander, winning a series of victories over Umayyad forces and occupying Kufa, capital of Iraq, in 749.
Okay. Where does Baghdad come into play?
The Abbasids now assume leadership of this revolution. And the following year, their forces meet the army of the Umayyad Caliph, Marwan II, at the Zab River.
Wow.
Most of what we know about the battle that follows comes from Abbasid sources. Caliph Marwan appears to have been a brave but reckless commander, launching a head-on cavalry charge against the Abbasid line. Abbasid historians tell how their own troops, inspired by recent victories, stand fast. Their spear walls repel the cavalry. The attack ends in disaster. Umayyad morale is broken, their army routed. Marwan himself flees the battle, but is pursued and killed in Egypt.
Dang.
Other Umayyads are likewise hunted down and exterminated. Even graves are desecrated.
Wow. It's like an ethnic cleansing, isn't it?
One surviving member of the dynasty, Abd al-Rahman, flees to Spain Just a few years later, he establishes the Emirate of Cordoba.
Is that the beginnings of Iberian Muslim rule?
A second Umayyad dynasty that would flourish in Iberia for centuries. Meanwhile, Abul Abbas al-Safar becomes the first Abbasid Caliph, though it will take the Abbasids more than a decade to consolidate their hold on power. Al-Safar moves the Caliph's residence from Haran to Kufa, closer to the Abbasid power base in Persia. In 751, he sends an army to curb the westward expansion of the Chinese Tang dynasty.
Oh, so the Tang Empire is trying to expand a little bit. I think I remember this. When we watched the Chinese history video. And I think, if I remember right, Tang Empire is unsuccessful.
The campaign culminates in a bloody victory at the Battle of Talas, but also marks the limit of the Caliphate's eastward expansion.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really need to go that way anyway.
Many who'd helped overthrow the Umayyads had sought the end of hereditary rule and a return to caliphs elected from within an elite group. They are to be disappointed. In 754, Al-Safar is succeeded by his brother Al-Mansur. The Abbasids will be the new ruling dynasty, and Al-Mansur will prove one of its greatest caliphs.
These are very short rules. Like, even before this, there was like same year rules, or like 1 or 2 or 4 or 5. Is it because of how much violence there was for the stake of the throne, or was it just like shorter terms?
But his reign begins inauspiciously with the execution of the brilliant and popular General Abu Muslim, now regarded as a potentially dangerous rival. Al-Mansur faces rebellion by the Alids, a powerful clan descended from the Prophet's son-in-law, Ali. They resent the growing dynastic power of the Abbasids and press their own claim to rule. Al-Mansur crushes the last major Alid revolt in 762, ushering in an era of stability, prosperity, and peace. That year, he orders the construction of a new capital on the banks of the Tigris River. Officially, it is to be known as Madinat as-Salam, the City of Peace. It will prove his greatest legacy, a city that will become one of the glories of the medieval world.
So is this like a city out of the blue, like constructed from the ground up? If so, that's crazy.
Baghdad.
This is Baghdad? What? Huh? I mean, the geography makes sense between the Euphrates and Tigris. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I didn't know Baghdad was this young, you know, in like relativity for, you know, like Jerusalem's a lot older than this. Damascus is a lot older than this. And so many other cities that you guys can see right here. You know, Baghdad was that young of a city. You know, London technically was older than Baghdad. Dang.
Officially, it is to be known as Madinat as-Salam, the City of Peace. It will prove his greatest legacy, a city that will become one of the glories of the medieval world. Baghdad.
Wow. This is pretty cool. Quote, "Did you not see how the sun came out of hiding on Harun's accession and flooded the world with light? Ibrahim al-Mawsili." Interesting.
In the reign of Al-Mansur's grandson, Harun al-Rashid, the caliphate flourishes as never before.
See, this is 23 years. Even the guy before him, 1 year, but 786 to 809, yeah, 23 good years.
With Baghdad at its heart.
Pretty good.
There are many legends told about Caliph Harun al-Rashid, the rightly guided. He is, after all, a central figure in 1001 Nights, the masterpiece of Arabic literature.
Wow.
The image of al-Rashid that reaches us from such sources is of a devout, wise and beneficent ruler who prayed 100 times a day and each morning gave 1,000 dirhams to good causes.
Sounds like he was exaggerated a little bit, but no worries.
In legend, al-Rashid wandered the streets of Baghdad disguised as a beggar to see how his subjects lived. He was a brilliant horseman and patron of the arts, and a keen chess player. His court was a place where religion and philosophy could be argued and debated openly, even, on occasion, by a woman.
And is this like the most progressive Middle Eastern city in history due to all of the factors I just said up to this point?
In the Caliphate, as in the rest of the medieval world, few women held high status in their own right. But as mothers, wives and concubines, they could exert huge influence. Al-Khazuran, once a Yemeni slave girl, rose from concubine to caliph's wife and wielded significant power during the reign of her husband, Caliph al-Mahdi, and son, Caliph al-Rashid. Famed for her intelligence and learning, she held discussions on policy and military strategy, received foreign ambassadors, and intervened on questions of justice. Much of her own enormous wealth she spent on public works and charity. Many likened her to a co-ruler, or even the real caliph.
That's crazy.
The success of al-Rashid's reign was underpinned by efficient government and administration. Much of it was modelled on that of their predecessors, the Sassanids, and they made extensive use of Persian and Central Asian bureaucrats. Of particular note was the Barmakid family. The Barmakids were descended from high priests of the Buddhist temple of Nobahar, near Balkh, in modern Afghanistan. As early Abbasid allies, they played an important role in government, helping to foster an age of Islamic statecraft, imbued with elements of Sasanian Persian culture. They served the Abbasids well for 3 generations, but the power games of court could be dangerous and unpredictable. In 803, al-Rashid decided the Barmakids had got a little too big for their boots. The family experienced a sudden and dramatic fall from favour, with many of its members imprisoned or executed.
I mean, that's just the way of the monarchy, even though this might not be... I guess this is a monarchy at this time, right? Maybe, right? It just depends how you look at it. I mean, it's just anywhere, right? You have a leader, you have someone that you don't really believe that should be a rival, or they're becoming too power hungry. Just eliminate them.
Their demise ended Barmakid control of the post of vizier, a position that had recently emerged at court as the caliph's senior advisor and chief minister. It was a role of advisor? Interesting. Enormous significance. Some viziers would later wield so much power they overshadowed the caliph himself. The fame of al-Rashid's court spread far and wide. Charlemagne, king of the Franks, Holy Roman Emperor and the most powerful ruler in Europe, sent several embassies to Baghdad.
For trade?
In return, al-Rashid sent him dazzling gifts, including perfume, ivory chessboards, a marvelous water clock, and even an elephant named Abu Abbas, which lived for several years at Charlemagne's court in
That's pretty cool.
Aachen. Cultural life in the Caliphate, and Baghdad in particular, was remarkably cosmopolitan. The Abbasid court even celebrated Persian holidays, such as Nowruz, Persian New Year.
Okay.
Such open-mindedness helped the Caliphate to flourish as a center of culture, science, arts and medicine. The center of learning was the city's famous library, Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom, though little of its function is known today.
For a reason that we'll probably see in the second video.
Here and across the Caliphate, scholars translated classical works from Greek, Middle Persian and Sanskrit into Arabic. Their efforts ensured the survival of countless works that would otherwise have been lost, including those by great figures such as Aristotle and Galen. They also made many of their own original discoveries, knowledge that would come to be much sought after by the medieval West.
Isn't there like a huge surge in mathematics?
Baghdad's scholars led the world in many fields.
And astronomy.
Al-Kindi, known as the philosopher of the Arabs, was a famed polymath who wrote on logic, psychology, astronomy, astrology, and many other topics. Al-Khwarizmi's contribution to mathematics led to him being dubbed the father of algebra.
Wow.
The Latin...
We gotta talk about it. Algebra. Ow. Does that have any resonance with Al-Khwarizmi? Like algebra? I think it does. That's so crazy.
Version of his name, algorithmus, is the origin of our word algorithm.
I could have waited 5 seconds.
The Christian scholar Hunayn ibn Ishaq was nicknamed the Sheikh of Translators for his role translating ancient texts into Arabic.
Nice.
Material culture also flourished under the Abbasids, with the introduction of glazed pottery in the 9th century, allowing new artistic possibilities. Many colourful pieces, decorated with animals and Kufic lettering, have been discovered across the former caliphate from this period. The Abbasid Caliphate also benefited from its position astride the Silk Roads.
That's really good positioning for Baghdad right there. Really good.
The name for the ancient network of trade routes linking Europe and Asia. Valuable imports travelled along this route, such as silk, spices, ivory, gemstones, and even thoroughbred horses.
Off topic, but you see how Khazars and the Black Sea up there, it's all intersecting at some sort of port city in the Black Sea. What port city is that? Seems important.
To encourage this trade, the Abbasids built new roads, as well as inns, hospices and wells for the comfort of travellers.
Progressive.
New ideas and technology also flowed along the Silk Roads.
This is Chinese, right?
Chinese paper-making techniques first reached the Muslim world under the Umayyads.
Okay.
But it was under the Abbasids that paper production really took off.
Wow.
Much cheaper than parchment or papyri, abundant supplies of paper transformed the practice of administration and bookmaking, and helped medieval Islam to become one of the most bookish cultures in world history.
He adopted a cap on which was written the words, "Warrior for the Faith Pilgrim." Okay.
In the 7th century, the first Arab conquests had pushed the frontier of the Eastern Roman Empire back to the Taurus Mountains. Since then, the Caliphate and Empire had been in a state of almost perpetual war, with frequent raids by both sides across the Syrian frontier. Twice the Arabs had even besieged Constantinople itself, but failed to take the great city. In 782, al-Rashid himself had led an Abbasid force as far as the shores of the Bosphorus. By 804, the Eastern Roman Empire was paying annual tribute to the Caliphate. When Emperor Nikephoros stopped the payments, an Abbasid army crossed the Taurus Mountains and took his army by surprise at Knossos. The Romans suffered a heavy defeat. The emperor himself was lucky to escape with his life.
Dang.
The cycle of raid and counter-raid continued for years, with al-Rashid even moving the Abbasid capital to Raqqa to be closer to the frontier.
Interesting.
But this fixation on his rival to the west may have blinded the Caliph to trouble in the east.
The Khanate? No. We're 400 years away from that. He was in the east.
In 809, news arrived of revolt in Khorasan. It was while traveling east to face down this rebellion that Caliph Harun al-Rashid became sick and died.
Oh.
His 22-year reign would come to be seen as a golden age for the Abbasid Caliphate, a time of prosperity, stability, intellectual and cultural achievement. But al-Rashid's own efforts to ensure a peaceful succession were about to backfire disastrously and plunge the Caliphate back into civil war. In the second and final part of Islam's Golden Age, we chart the catastrophe of renewed civil war.
Okay, that's going to do it for this part. Like I said, we're going to release part 2 immediately, so it's already up. So go check that out after you watch this one. It's an interesting video so far. Really learning about some blind spot that I really didn't know about. So appreciate the video recommendation again, and we'll go to the second part now. Appreciate it, guys. Peace out. Bye-bye.